Hello there, everyone. If you're watching this video, then you are part of the TTOR army, an army that is building itself up one subscriber at a time. Now, before we get into the subject of today's video, I'd like to point a couple of things to your attention. First of all, if you do not like the YouTube censorship that is going on right now, and has been going on right now for years, if you don't like that and you want to follow me on a YouTube alternative that is less restrictive on the topics you can talk about, but also has a bunch of people using the platform, I would encourage you to subscribe to me over on Rumble. I currently have 55 subscribers at the time of this recording, and some of my videos are getting really good views relative to my subscriber count, especially this one here that's closing in on 2,000 total views, which is more than most of my YouTube videos. More than all but one of my YouTube videos, in fact. So if you want to follow me on Rumble, where you can help me grow and help me reach my goal of 100 subscribers on Rumble, I would appreciate that. I would also appreciate it if you decided to watch my videos on Rumble instead of YouTube, but I'll leave it up to you whether you want to watch me on YouTube or Rumble. I would encourage you to do it on Rumble if you do not like YouTube for any reason. But if you're looking for a YouTube alternative that champions true freedom of speech and is less restrictive than even Rumble is, I would encourage you to go to Quarter, which is my own open source alt-tech alternative to YouTube that I started a year and a half ago. It is very much free speech. All the things on YouTube that would get your channel or individual videos removed, you can do here on Quarter. It's feature-rich, functional, true freedom of speech. It's got something for everybody, and it just needs content creators like you guys to post your content here and to share that content, to share your Quarter channels. So if you want to be part of a real free speech alternative to YouTube that I myself run, so you know that freedom of speech is real here, be sure to join me on Quarter today. And if you're looking for an alternative social media site to sites like X and Facebook and Gab, etc., I would encourage you to join Creation Social, which is my own open source alt-tech alternative to those sites. You can find the links to all three of these in the description box below. Now, let's get to the subject of today's video, which is Daniel, also known as DarwinToJesus. More specifically, we're going to look at his testimony about why he left atheism and converted to the biblical worldview. Now, this trend of atheist content creators or atheists turning from atheism to the biblical worldview, or at least turning to theism in some sense, has been happening recently. I know the Raging Atheist a few months back came out and announced that he was no longer an atheist and that he was pursuing other worldviews. Adam Lohr, one of Brett Keene's good friends, has been an atheist for so long, but he recently came out and admitted that he was no longer an atheist, and I believe he was exploring theism or Christianity or maybe all of the above. And now we got DarwinToJesus, who on April 7th, 2023, which is almost 5 months ago, he gave his testimony about why he left atheism and became a Christian. So I'm just going to read his entire 12-post thread and let him speak for himself. So DarwinToJesus wrote, "Why I Left Atheism, 12-part thread. As an atheist, there were always two things I truly cared about, the truth and morality. The first thing that really got me asking serious questions about my atheism was the subject of morality, and it was caused by other atheists. One day I happened to be in a live chat with a bunch of atheists. I had told them I was an atheist, and I said something along the lines of rape being wrong. The other atheists happened to know quite a bit about philosophy and told me that rape wasn't actually wrong, only subjectively wrong, and that atheism couldn't justify objective morality. I thought this was the most absurd thing I had ever heard. Rape was wrong. I knew that. Everyone knew that. How could atheists say otherwise? They told me about Hume's guillotine, which shows that an ought cannot be derived from an is. For example, just because my house is green doesn't in any way mean it ought to be green or purple or any color. How a thing is has nothing to do with how it objectively should be. So they told me this, and I set out to prove them wrong. I studied the subject of morality in Hume's guillotine and tried for about 4 years to justify objective morality within an atheist worldview. It simply cannot be done. Here is why. First, you have to have ground, provide a foundation in reality for objective values. Values are what make a thing good or bad. How can atheism justify assigning objective universal values like good, bad to random actions? It simply can't. Even if it could, where do the obligations come from? Why ought we do good and not bad? In atheism, there is only is, and so there can be no objective oughts. There no objective ought giver. So atheism has no way around Hume's guillotine. There is also absolutely no way to justify saying that an objective moral standard exists. Where on earth would that come from? An objective moral standard that is immaterial and above humans, which we are all subject to somehow? The idea of such a thing is absurd in atheism. Then you also have the problem of human dignity. Where do humans get dignity from in atheism? If humans are just animals, then what objectively gives us more dignity than dogs, ants, or bacteria? What is the trait that would actually give humans some type of moral worth above other animals that wasn't totally arbitrary? There is none. Needless to say, after 4 years of trying to justify objective morality without God, I totally failed. Still, to say rape is wrong, but that's just my opinion, was absurd. I didn't believe it. The next crucial part of my story happened one day when I realized I was being a total hypocrite in my epistemology. Epistemology is the theory of how we can know things, and I believed that all knowledge comes from sense data. If I could see it, smell it, touch it, I believed in it. This is called empiricism. So I said, I don't believe in God because I've never seen God. I don't believe in Santa Claus as I've never seen Santa Claus. Show me Santa Claus and I'll believe in Santa. Well, one day I realized, wait a second, I'm making arguments for why I don't believe in God, but all arguments appeal to logic. Why do I believe in the existence of logic? I've never seen logic, never smelt logic, never held it in my hand. Not only that, but I didn't believe logic was even made of matter. I was a materialist. If everything that exists as matter and energy, why did I believe in something that exists as neither matter nor energy? Plus, I had zero evidence for the existence of logic. This was a huge problem. I was being directly inconsistent with my epistemology, and not just with logic. Numbers, uniformity of nature, myself and consciousness, information, knowledge, truth. There are so many things we believe in that cannot be sensed or tested or proven to exist in any scientific way. At this point, I brought this subject up to a fellow atheist friend on Discord. I asked him, hey, why are we calling ourselves empiricists and skeptics when we are taking all this stuff over here, logic, truth, etc., totally for granted with zero evidence? He said, and this is true, if you keep asking questions like this, you won't be an atheist much longer. It turned out he was right. As an atheist, I had been one because I thought it was true. I thought God was made up, God was fiction. But now I realized I was being inconsistent in my beliefs. My reasons for rejecting belief in God should have also led to the rejection of belief in logic, truth, numbers, my ability to reason, free will. Essentially, if I was going to be consistent in my epistemology, I would have to give up all those things, truth, logic, etc., and basically die. How can anyone live without using logic or induction? Furthermore, I wouldn't even have a good reason for giving this all up because I had given up logic. So to be consistent in my epistemology would mean to reject logic, which would be illogical. In other words, the argument to get rid of logic would itself be, assuming logic, which is a contradiction, so I couldn't give up logic even if I wanted to because there's no good reason to. Then I realized another even bigger problem, and this was with atheism itself. The problem deals with the nature of knowledge. Essentially, the atheist in their worldview can't justify having any knowledge. An all-knowing mind is actually a required precondition for the possibility of knowledge, and the atheist rejects this. They don't believe in God. So the atheist is left ultimately saying, I know nothing. But that's a contradiction because all claims of knowledge or ignorance are knowledge claims. So the atheist is actually making a knowledge claim about their lack of knowledge, which amounts to, I know that I know nothing. And this is a contradiction. So atheism leads to absurdity and contradiction and therefore literally cannot be true. If atheism cannot be true, then there must be at least one God. When I realized all this, I knew that there was a God. Not only this, but God actually created justification for all these beliefs. If God existed, objective morality could exist, logic could exist, and truth. God was an all-knowing being who could give me knowledge through revelation, and uniformity of nature made sense, as it would be caused by God's will to keep the world uniform so we could make plans and have stability. Everything clicked into place. When I realized that God must exist, I knew if he did, he was good. If God was good, shouldn't I serve him? It's shameful to admit, but I waited 3 entire months to get down on my knees and give my life to God. I wanted to sin more, and I had an enormous ego, frankly. When I finally did do it, I said, God, I know you exist, I know you're good, and I want to give you my life and serve you. When I got up from that prayer, everything was different. Suddenly the world seemed magical. My life had a purpose. I wasn't just a speck floating in space anymore. I was a creature loved by an all-powerful, loving God. I had a stupid smile on my face as I walked to get food that night, looking up at the stars like I used to as a child, in wonder and amazement at God's creation. Soon after that, I heard the gospel of Jesus Christ, how I was a sinner. I had lied, cheated, lusted, stolen, you name it, and how I deserved to go to hell for my sins which I had committed against a perfect, holy God. I learned how God loved me even though I was his enemy, and how he sent his son to this terrible world where he lived as a man like me, but he lived a perfect, sinless life, and then he died for my sins and the sins of the world in the worst way imaginable, all because of his love for us. He then conquered death and rose on the 3rd day so that all who believe in him as their Savior would not perish, but also have everlasting life with him in heaven. Suddenly the gospel, which had never made sense to me. I knew it was the truth, and I was a Christian. Since then, God transformed my life. I no longer have any desire to smoke, drink, watch degenerate Hollywood films, be mean to people and upset them, and I don't even watch porn anymore, which is an absolute miracle. God changed my life. He turned me from a bitter, proud, selfish jerk that no one liked into someone that genuinely cares about people and wants to do the right thing even when no one is looking. I'm not perfect, and I never will be, but I love Jesus, and I have peace and real joy now, and I know where I'm going when I die. If you're an atheist or unbeliever reading this, I want you to know I love you, and I would love to talk to you about Jesus anytime. Thank you for reading this thread. God bless. And I have to say, this is an incredibly powerful testimony, and it was logic and reason and rationality and, to an extent, evidence that caused DarwinToJesus to convert from being an atheist to being a Christian and to accepting God and giving his life to Jesus. But the part of his testimony that I found interesting was his atheist friend who told him, hey, if you keep asking questions like that, you won't be an atheist much longer. That was very powerful too, because it is once again evidence that, contrary to their claims, atheists are not champions of logic, reason, and rationality, and evidence and truth. They have beliefs that they like, that they want to believe, and they are willing to reject any and all evidence in reality to continue believing what they want to believe, even to the point of rejecting all of reality itself. But when I see people from the atheist group, like Daniel here, convert from atheism to Christianity because they realize that, hey, logic, reason, and rationality all leads to here, and atheism can't justify the existence of any of it, it brings a warm feeling to my heart. It brings a smile to my face. It makes me realize, wow, this is a wonderful time to be alive, because we can see people leaving behind this godless, satanic worldview and getting right with God and submitting to him and accepting truth and reality and logic and reason. It is absolutely wonderful to see. And hopefully, if you've made it this far in the video, I hope you enjoyed reading and hearing Daniel's testimony, how he went from Darwin to Jesus, how he went from being a diehard atheist to being a Bible-believing Christian. Thank you for watching. And if you want to follow Daniel on X, you can. He's got over 3,000 followers here. But DarwinToJesus also has a YouTube channel where he's closing in on 100 subscribers. So I would encourage you, if you're watching this, to go ahead and subscribe to him on YouTube as well. And you can find his YouTube channel with a link in the description box below. And somebody has got to get Daniel onto Quarter, because DarwinToJesus posting his videos on Quarter would be awesome, and would be an awesome bit of content to expand the Christian genre over on Quarter. And with that, I say adieu to all of you.